All right. Welcome back to the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. Oh, I don't know the episode number. Um, Welcome back to the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast, where today, Marissa, me here, I'm going to be discussing the top 3 things that are causing you to overeat. And so this is going to be a quick one with hopefully some actionable takeaways that you're going to be able to just really just lock down and fix right away. So let's get right into it. And with that being said, the things that are causing you to overeat, a lot of times, let me just give some background here, right? Like a lot of times we think that it's our willpower. We just suck at willpower and we can't hold ourselves back from the sweets and the snacks. Or we think that it's the sweets, or we think that it's just, having too much crap in the house. And honestly, I don't think that any of those things are truly it. And so I have 3 things here that might actually shake up your beliefs around what is causing you to overeat, and hopefully give you a new perspective around what you need to do moving forward to actually reach your goals if you have fat loss goals and you are a work from home professional. So number 1 is actually inspired by a client of mine who recently we made this shift in her day and she started sticking to her goals a lot better. So the number 1 thing that I think is causing people to overeat is actually, funny enough, skipping meals and particularly skipping breakfast. Now there is that sentiment that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And, I don't really sit in that camp of like, it sparks your metabolism and it's magic and you have to have breakfast and blah, blah, blah. I think that's kind of a bit out there, but like anything, there are elements of truth to every fitness myth out there because they had to originate somewhere, right? And so what I do is I basically try to dig in and find out what is that truth, right? And so when it comes to skipping breakfast, this client of mine, I basically was just digging into her food logs. She had checked in for the week and I was just looking and I was like, man, every morning she has a coffee with cream and then she doesn't have anything else. And I was like, huh. And it happened to be a check-in where she was coincidentally struggling with her adherence for the week. We were just trying to hit her maintenance calories on the day-to-day, and she was just not able to actually hit them. She was going over every single day. And some days she wouldn't even track the whole day because she'd get halfway through the day and be like, today's a wash. Let me just throw this aside. And so I asked her, like, do you always skip breakfast? Is this always something you've done? Because I recall in the past when I've looked at your food logs, this was not the case. She was like, yeah, I'm just trying to make room for the rest of the day because I know I'm going over to my parents' house, or I know I'm going out to eat, or I know I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And this is super, super common. We think that skipping a meal in order to save calories later is actually helping us when it's actually hurting us and it's causing us to overeat and go off track more often. And here's why. While breakfast is not magic, being able to stabilize your blood sugar and your just overall like have something in your stomach at the beginning of the day is going to be better psychologically and behaviorally for you versus restricting. So when you eat breakfast, what it does is when it's a well-rounded meal and it's a well-rounded breakfast, you are stabilizing your blood sugar throughout the day. You're starting your day off with hopefully a really big serving of protein to get you ahead on your protein goal for the day. And just overall eating a meal that is satiating and is good in proportions. There's actually been research to show that if you take 2 groups that are in the exact same calorie deficit, and one of the groups has a big breakfast, medium-sized lunch, and small dinner, and compare it to a group that does the same calories, same macronutrient distribution, but they do a small breakfast, medium lunch, and big dinner, that the former group actually sees better results in the long term, not only because maybe just because they don't eat a lot at night because like their scale weight doesn't go up in the morning because of the food volume in their stomach, but having more food in the beginning of the day actually allowed people to have more energy, be more productive, get more done, have better workouts. and just overall utilize that fuel better, so that they were able to get more out of being in a calorie deficit versus eating all their food at night when they're not really doing anything. They're just laying on the couch, just kind of saving all their calories for later, right? And that's typically the way that most of us tend to go. We typically tend to, have a smoothie for breakfast, a salad for lunch. And then, this is like, I get on so many calls with women and I'm like, so what does your day look like? Smoothie for breakfast, salad with chicken for lunch, and then a protein and veggie for dinner. And I'm like, great, that's like 500 calories. No wonder you're binging at night. Like, we'll get into that, but skipping breakfast is a really, really big part of that. Or even just having too small of a breakfast, which we'll get into next. But when you skip that meal entirely, what you're doing is you're basically making it so, okay, you skip breakfast and then you just drink coffee all morning. And then all of a sudden it's 3 p.m. and you're starving. Then what happens? Then you binge on everything in your house. You eat way too much and it sends you down a spiral. So instead, stop trying to save calories by skipping breakfast, eat a bigger breakfast, and actually it will set you up to rely on your hunger signals better, to be able to trust yourself better throughout the day, to be able to make better decisions with food throughout the day, because you've actually fueled your body appropriately to start the day. So that's number one. Don't skip breakfast because it is going to cause you to overeat. Number two, protein, not having enough protein throughout the day. So protein is our most satiating macronutrient. What the heck does that mean? It means that it keeps us the fullest for longest. And so this basically is something that most women really, really, really undereat, and most Americans undereat. The average amount of protein in an average American diet is like 57 grams per day, I think, which is really low. That's like barely 2 servings of protein per day. So a serving of protein is anywhere from 25 to 35 grams of protein in a sitting for women, more like 35 to 50 grams per sitting for men. And most of us are not eating enough. Most people need at least 3 palm-sized servings of protein that get them to that, 100-gram range of protein per day at minimum to start to see the body composition changes that they want. Most people are not there at all, even if they're having a smoothie for breakfast, salad for lunch, and protein and veggie for dinner. I laugh because it's like, I hear that so often. And sometimes people think that they're eating enough protein because they have protein in their meals, but it's not enough. Like someone might buy like protein pasta and be like, oh, enhanced with protein, awesome. But like 1 serving of the pasta has like 7 grams of protein instead of 3, but they think they're getting a ton of protein in. They're not. So you really have to know what is enough protein. And that is going to be anywhere from 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of your body weight or your goal body weight. So if you are, for example, if you are more overweight, you have a lot of weight to lose, it's not going to be, 250, 300 grams of protein per day that you have to eat. Think about what's your goal weight. If your goal weight's like 150, 175, think about calculating your protein goal from that number, not where you are currently, because the amount of protein you need is proportional to the amount of skeletal muscle tissue that's on your body, not the amount of body fat or total overall weight that you have. But if you only have like 15, 20 pounds to lose, then just go with whatever body weight you're at, because it's not that different. So 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of your body weight protein per day. That's a lot. So I personally weigh around 140 pounds. And so for me, gosh, that's difficult math. For me, my protein typically will range anywhere from like 115 grams per day to up to like even 160, 165, 170 is acceptable and in a good range. And you can technically go higher, but you don't need to. And that's going to facilitate the body composition change that you need. And it's also going to facilitate you being full after your meals and not needing to snack all day long, because most people just have incomplete meals without enough protein in them. And then they wonder why they're hungry 2 hours later and they can't stop snacking. The reason why is because having protein and having meals with mixed macronutrient sources, so a meal that has carbs, proteins, and fats in balanced proportions, actually stabilizes your blood sugar better and keeps you fuller for longer than if you were to eat each of those protein sources separately. So whenever you're having your meals, have them be combined meals of sources of macronutrients, and make sure there's a good serving of protein in each that gets you to that range of protein per day. And I promise you, you will stop overeating. Most of our clients, our first goal with them is like, hey, just eat 3 well-balanced meals per day. And it seems too simple, but no one's doing it. And it honestly self-corrects a lot of problems with overeating. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is a little bit more probably up your alley in terms of what you might have expected this talk to be about. And this is going to be not eating enough calories, period. And so a lot of us think, well, I want to lose weight, so I need to restrict. And we restrict to 1,200 calories per day, and then we're miserable, and then we're binging on the pantry, and everything sucks. And not eating enough calories, while it seems counterintuitive, we often tend to restrict more than we need to. And then we're really upset and miserable, and we're prone to overindulging. Whereas if we just set the calorie target somewhere that is maintainable and sustainable, even if we're not going to see as quick or rapid of a weight loss progress, we are going to be so much happier and also be able to stick to it and stop overeating at night. Because when you try to eat a 1,200 calorie diet, I know from personal experience and my own journey that it only lasts for so long. For me, I thought something was wrong with me because I couldn't sustain it for longer than, honestly, 2 or 3 days at most. And I would constantly just be binging on what's in the pantry because I would never be able to sustain that. And I thought something was seriously wrong with me, and I hated myself for it. So don't fall into that trap. There's nothing wrong with you. It's the approach you're taking. A lot of women can lose fat on 16, 17, 1,800 calories per day. And sometimes even more than that if you have a lot of weight to lose, but you just have not trained your metabolism to respond the way that it needs to respond to that amount of food before. And you're not eating the right things in that amount of calories. So eating too little can be a really great setup to overeat, either on the weekends or just at night with the pantry, or, whenever there's a holiday or a work event or travel or something. But at some point we say, screw it, and we throw it out the window because we are not doing anything that's sustainable. So as soon as we have an opportunity for failure, everything flies out the window, and then we overeat, and then we hate ourselves for it. And we just bring ourselves right back into that toxic cycle. So those, I would say, are your top 3 things that are causing you to overeat. Number 1, skipping breakfast. Number 2, not having enough protein throughout the day. And number 3, not eating enough calories. Most of our clients that come into our one-on-one coaching program with us, actually, we are basically forcing them to eat more every single time they come in the door, because people think that the problem is overeating, but it's overeating because we're undereating, and the overall balance of calories and hormones and our body's response to that toxic cycle is it's just a lot of stress on the system. But typically we're undereating, it's causing us to overeat, and therefore we're stuck in a vicious cycle that we don't know how to stop. So that, my friends, is everything that you need to know about stopping overeating. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And if you would like to go into more detail with this, maybe see what the solution for this is in your own journey, in your own weight loss, fat loss goals, then feel free to shoot me the message on Instagram at Marissa Roy Fitness. Tell me that you're from the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast, and shoot me the episode number and say, hey, I would love to chat more about this. And what I'll do is we'll set up a free 15-minute phone call, and we'll just kind of go over the strategies that it might take for you to get out of that cycle, fuel your body appropriately to see the results that you actually want to see. So if that's something you're interested, go ahead and just shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook or whatever you're connected with me on. If you're connected with me on social media, I'll leave those handles in the show notes here. And thank you again so much for listening. I hope that you found this valuable. I hope that you got what you needed out of this, or maybe had an aha moment. And I hope that this sets you on the right trajectory with your goals so that you can fuel your body better and see better results because of it. So thanks again for listening to the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. Till next time, see you next week.